JonBenét Patricia Ramsey, born on August 6, 1990, tragically lost her life in a horrific incident that occurred either on the 25th or 26th of the year 1996. She was an American child beauty queen who was only 6 years old at the time of her untimely death in her family's residence located at 755 15th Street in Boulder, Colorado. The investigation began when a lengthy handwritten ransom note was discovered inside the home. Approximately 7 hours after JonBenét was reportedly missing, her father, John Ramsey, made a devastating discovery of her lifeless body in the basement of their house. An investigation revealed that she had suffered a significant head injury, specifically a broken skull, about 2.5 hours prior to her death, which was caused by asphyxiation. Disturbingly, a garrote was found around her neck, indicating the violent nature of her demise. According to the autopsy report, the official cause of death was determined to be asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma, leading law enforcement to classify her death as a homicide. This heartbreaking case garnered intense worldwide attention from the public and media alike, partly due to the fact that her mother, Patsy Ramsey, was a former beauty queen who had enrolled JonBenét in numerous child beauty pageants. To this day, the investigation remains open, classified as a cold case by the Boulder Police Department. She was born to Patricia Patsy Ramsey, who lived from 1956 to 2006, and JonBenét Ramsey, who was born in 1943. JonBenét also shared her home with an older brother named Burke Ramsey, who was born in 1987. The unique choice of her first name, JonBenét, is a blend of her father's first and middle names, while her middle name pays homage to her mother's first name, Patricia. At the time of her untimely passing, JonBenét was attending kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School located in Boulder, Colorado. Tragically, the joyful life of this little girl was cut short within the confines of her family's residence in Boulder. In a somber ceremony, JonBenét was laid to rest at St. James's Episcopal Cemetery, situated in Marietta, Georgia, on December 31st of the same year. In a poignant reminder of lost potential and family ties, she was interred alongside her half-sister, Elizabeth Patch Ramsey, who tragically lost her life in a car accident nearly 5 years earlier at the young age of 22. This heartbreaking chapter in the Ramsey's family's history serves as a lasting testament to the love and loss they experienced. John Ramsey was a prominent businessman who held a position of president at Access Graphics, a computer software company that later transitioned to a subsidiary under the umbrella of Lockheed Martin, leading aerospace and defense operation. His personal life experienced a significant change when his first marriage ended in divorce in the year 1978. Following this, in 1991, John moved to Boulder, Colorado with his second wife, Patsy Ramsey, along with his family, as the headquarters of Access Graphics was located in that area. During their time in Boulder, Patsy Ramsey enrolled her daughter JonBenét in numerous child beauty pageants. JonBenét quickly made a name for herself by winning several prestigious titles. After the tragic murder of JonBenét, the media extensively covered her participation in child beauty pageants, leading to discussion about Patsy's reported behavior as a pageant mother, which many found controversial. In the summer of 1997, approximately 6 months after the devastating loss of JonBenét, the Ramsey family relocated to a new residence in Atlanta, Georgia, following a summer spent at their vacation home in Charlotte, Michigan. Tragically, Patsy Ramsey succumbed to ovarian cancer at the age of 49 in 2006. On December 26, 1996, Patsy Ramsey provided authorities with crucial statements regarding the unsettling disappearance of her daughter. It was at her Boulder family home that she discovered a handwritten ransom note, measuring 2.5 pages long in length, placed ominously on the staircase. This note contained a demand for a ransom of $118,000, a figure that raised eyebrows among the investigators. Notably, John Ramsey, Patsy's husband, pointed out to the police who first arrived at the scene that this specific amount was strikingly similar to his Christmas bonus from the previous year. This revelation led investigators to speculate whether the individual responsible for the crime had inside knowledge of John's financial affairs. They explored various avenues of inquiry, including the possibility that an employee from Access Graphics, John's former workplace, had knowledge of the bonus amount. Additionally, they considered the intriguing idea that the ransom demand could have been inspired by Psalm 118, prompting them to consult with religious experts to investigate any potential significance. The contents of the ransom note raised further suspicions, as certain phrases and structures mirrored dialogue from well-known films. Titles such as Ruthless People, Ransom, Escape from New York, Speed, and Dirty Harry have all been suggested as potential influences on the language used in the note. Adding to the mystery surrounding the ransom note was unusually lengthy format. Experts from the Federal Bureau of Investigation informed the local police that it was rare for such an extensive note to be discovered at a crime scene. Police investigators suspected that the note might have been staged, particularly since it contained no fingerprints beyond the belonging to Patsy and the authorities who had previously handled the document. Additionally, they noted the peculiar usage of numerous exclamation marks and various initialisms throughout the note. The writing, including a draft, was traced back to materials, a pen and a notepad, found at Ramsey's residence. A report from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation indicated that there were indications suggesting Patricia Ramsey as the author of the ransom note. However, the evidence fell short providing a definitive conclusion regarding her authorship. Michael Baden, a renowned and board-certified forensic pathologist who had worked with insights to both sides involving in the case, expressed his disbelief regarding the note's authenticity, stating that his extensive 60-year career, he had never encountered a note of its kind. He was not inclined to think that it was authored from an outsider. In a federal court ruling, it was concluded that it was exceedingly improbable that Patsy is the writer of the ransom note. This determination was supported by the analysis of 6 certified handwriting experts. The court highlighted concerns over self-styled experts lacking proper credentials who attempted to insert themselves into the case and falsely accused Patsy without any scientific foundation for their claims.
Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business but not the country that it serves. At this time we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence a earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The 2 gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory.
On the fateful night of JonBenét Ramsey's tragic death, the only individuals known to be present in the family home were her immediate relatives, her parents, Patsy and John Ramsey, along with their son Burke. The ransom note was discovered containing explicit instructions advising against contacting law enforcement or friends for assistance. Despite this, Patsy made the decision to call the police at 5:52 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. In addition to reaching out to the authorities, she also contacted family members and close friends for support during this harrowing time. Responding swiftly to the emergency call, 2 police officers arrived at the Ramsey residence within a mere 3 minutes. Upon entering the home, they conducted a brief and superficial search for evidence, but no signs of forced entry, which raised further concerns about the situation. During this initial exploration, Officer Rick French proceeded to the basement area, where he encountered a door that was secured by an additional wooden latch affixed to the top of the door frame. He observed the door for a moment, but ultimately chose not to open it. Officer French later clarified his reasoning. He was actively searching for an escape route that the alleged kidnapper might have used. Given that the wooden latch was keeping the door closed from within the house, it was highly unlikely that the kidnapper could have used the door to exit after securing it. This line of reasoning turned out to be significant, as JonBenét's lifeless body was later discovered behind that very door. With the grim reality of JonBenét still unaccounted for, John Ramsey took it upon himself to make arrangements to pay the ransom that had been demanded. Meanwhile, the forensics team was dispatched to the scene to gather evidence and provide insight into the situation. Initially, the investigative team operated under the assumption that JonBenét had been kidnapped, leading them to cordon off her bedroom as the only area in the home to prevent contamination of potential evidence. Regrettably, no such precautions were implemented elsewhere in the house. During this chaotic period, friends, victim advocates, and the Ramsey family clergymen arrived at the residence to express their support for the grieving family. Unfortunately, visitors in the home began tidying and cleaning surfaces in the kitchen, which may have unintentionally compromised valuable evidence. Around 8 a.m. MST, Boulder detective Linda Arndt arrived at the scene, anticipating communication from the kidnappers regarding the ransom, but as the hours passed, it became increasingly evident that no one ever came forward to claim the money that had been offered. At precisely 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Detective Arndt made a decision to enlist the assistance of John Ramsey, the father of the victim, and Fleet White, a family friend, to conduct a thorough search of the Ramsey residence. The purpose of the search was to determine if there were any signs of abnormality or anything that appeared to be out of place within the home. They initiated their investigation in the basement area of the house. During this search, John Ramsey discovered a latch door that had previously been overlooked by Officer French. Upon opening this door, he made the shocking and devastating discovery: the lifeless body of his daughter, JonBenét, lying in one of the rooms. The horrifying scene revealed that JonBenét's mouth was sealed with duct tape, a disturbing indication of foul play. Additionally, a nylon cord was found tightly bound around her wrists and neck, while her torso was covered with a white blanket, further adding to the grim tableau. Overwhelmed with grief, John Ramsey made the impulsive decision to carry his daughter's body upstairs. This action, however, unfortunately contributed to the contamination of the crime scene, disrupting critical forensic evidence that might have been valuable for the investigators and the returning forensics team. In the wake of this tragic event, each member of the Ramsey family willingly provided handwriting samples, blood tests, and hair samples to facilitate the police investigation. Both John and his wife Patsy participated in preliminary interviews that lasted more than 2 hours, during which they conveyed their accounts and emotions surrounding the tragedy. Furthermore, their son Burke was also interviewed in the first few weeks following her untimely death of his sister, JonBenét, as part of the investigative efforts to piece together the events that led to this heartbreaking incident. The autopsy conducted on JonBenét Ramsey revealed that she died as a result of strangulation coupled with a skull fracture. The official determination of her cause of death was stated by asphyxia, by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. This conclusion highlighted the tragic circumstances surrounding her demise. While the investigation did not uncover any evidence of conventional sexual assault, it was noted that the possibility of sexual misconduct could not be completely dismissed. Although no semen was discovered during the autopsy, there were indications of vaginal injuries. Furthermore, forensic evidence suggested that the paintbrush which was used to fashion the garrote for strangulation also may have been involved in a sexual assault. At the time of the autopsy, the attending pathologist observed that it looked as though her vaginal area had been wiped clean with a cloth, reinforcing the suspicion of foul play. In the end, her death was officially classed as a homicide. In the disturbing details of the case, a garrote constructed from a piece of nylon cord and the broken handle of a paintbrush was found tightly bound around JonBenét's neck, indicating that this instrument was used in the act of strangulation. Interestingly, part of the bristle end of the paintbrush was discovered in a tub containing art supplies owned by JonBenét's mother, Patsy. However, it is worth noting that the lower third of the paintbrush had never been located, despite thorough researches conducted by the police in the following days after the tragedy. In addition to these grim findings, the autopsy also indicated the presence of what appeared to be a vegetable or a fruit material which may represent pineapple, suggesting that JonBenét had consumed this food item only a few hours prior to her untimely death. Compounding the mystery, photographs taken inside the Ramsey residence on the day of JonBenét's body was discovered showed a bowl of pineapple placed prominently on the kitchen table, complete with a spoon. However, neither John nor Patsy Ramsey could recall having placed the bowl there or having fed pineapple to their daughter. Furthermore, police reports indicated that fingerprints belonging to JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, Burke Ramsey, were found on the bowl. The Ramseys have consistently maintained that Burke slept throughout the entire night and was only awakened several hours after police arrived at their home, raising further questions about the events that transpired that fateful night. In December of 2003, a significant breakthrough occurred when forensic investigators successfully extracted a substantial amount of biological material from a mixed blood sample discovered on JonBenét Ramsey's underwear. This forensic analysis allowed the investigators to create a DNA profile, which revealed that the genetic material was linked to an unidentified male individual. Notably, the DNA evidence collected excluded any connection to members of the Ramsey family. The extracted DNA was subsequently submitted to the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, an extensive database that housed over 1.6 million DNA profiles. However, despite the comprehensive nature of CODIS, the DNA sample did not correspond with any profiles within the database. A major development came to the year of 2016 when the new forensic analyses employing more advanced and sensitive techniques disclosed that the original DNA samples contained genetic markers from 2 individuals, neither of whom were JonBenét. A. James Kolar, who served as the lead investigator for the District Attorney's Office, revealed that the additional traces of the male DNA were detected on other items, specifically a cord and a paintbrush, which had not been previously disclosed by Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey. Kolar also pointed out that a total of 6 distinct DNA samples from unknown individuals were identified during the testing. Candace DeLong, former FBI profiler, positioned that the presence of DNA, which appeared consistently across various locations and multiple surfaces, pointed it to belonging to the perpetrator of the crime. Moreover, Bob Grant, the former district attorney of Adams County, Colorado, who has lent his expertise on the Boulder's DA's office over the years, echoed these sentiments. He emphasized that any resolution in this chilling case must address the mystery of how the DNA came to be found in the first place on the multiple pieces of JonBenét's clothing. However, despite the compelling nature of the DNA findings, forensic pathologist Michael Baden cautioned against jumping to conclusions. He noted that the trace amounts of DNA can inadvertently transfer to clothing and various surfaces through innocuous means. Baden remarked that the existing forensic evidence does not categorically indicate that the murder was committed by a stranger. Over the years, various experts, media analysts, and even members of the Ramsey family have suggested a number of potential suspects in the ongoing investigation surrounding the tragic case. At the outset, the Boulder Police Department's focus was predominantly directed towards John and Patsy Ramsey, the parents of the victim. However, by the fall of 1997, their perspective shifted significantly, as the police had compiled an extensive list of over 1,600 individuals who were considered persons of interest in the case. The initial inquiry into the matter was fraught with numerous errors, which further complicated the investigation and clouded the theoretical framework surrounding it. Among these critical missteps were the loss and contamination of vital evidence, a lack of experienced investigators and technical personnel involved in the case, inappropriate sharing of evidence with the Ramseys, and delayed in conducting informal interviews with the parents when they were most crucial to the investigation. In early 1997, Lou Smith, a seasoned detective, came out of retirement with the intention of aiding the Boulder County District Attorney's Office in resolving this complex case. By May of 1998, he had presented his investigative findings to the Boulder Police Department along with other personnel from the District Attorney's Office, ultimately concluding that the evidence seems to refute any implication of the Ramseys' involvement. Yet, despite the insights, he faced significant opposition from law enforcement, which continued to uphold their theory of the Ramseys' guilt. Subsequently, the District Attorney's Office expressed a desire to exert more control over the investigation, leading to heightened tensions between the police and the DA's office. In a bid to address these conflicts, Colorado Governor Roy Romer stepped in, appointing Michael Caine as the special prosecutor to initiate proceedings for a grand jury. The investigation saw a profound division, with both Lou Smith and Steve Thomas, two lead investigators, holding starkly contrasting viewpoints on the case. Smith ultimately decided to resign as he felt the investigation had egregiously overlooked the possibility of an intruder being responsible for the crime. On the other hand, Thomas exited the investigation due to frustrations over what he perceived as interference from the district attorney's office, which he felt hampered the police efforts to thoroughly investigate the case. On September 15, 1998, a grand jury was convened to deliberate the possibility of indicting the Ramseys on charges connected to the case. Eventually, in 1999, the grand jury returned a true bill suggesting that the Ramseys could be charged with endangering their child, which potentially culminated in their untimely death, as well as obstructing a murder investigation due to John Ramsey's alleged tampering with the crime scene. However, Boulder County District Attorney Alex Hunter opted not to prosecute them, convinced that he could not meet the higher threshold of proof needed to establish their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In a significant shift of leadership, Mary Lacey assumed the role of Boulder County District Attorney on December 26, 2002, taking over the investigation from the police. By April 2003, she expressed agreement with the federal judge who had been involved in the 2002 libel case, asserting that the evidence presented indicated that the intruder was most likely to have been the perpetrator of JonBenét's murder than Miss Ramsey, thereby casting doubt on the previous focus of the parents. On July 9, 2008, the Boulder District Attorney's Office made a pivotal announcement. Advances in DNA sampling and testing, particularly touch DNA analysis, had led to exclusion of all Ramsey family members as suspects, culminating in Lacey's public exoneration of the Ramseys. On February 2, 2009, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner disclosed that the new Boulder County District Attorney Stan Garnett would be overseeing the case, signifying a renewed commitment to revisiting the investigation. However, Garnett soon found the statute of limitations on the crime suggested by the grand jury true bill from 1999 had expired, thereby precluding any further legal actions against the Ramseys at that time. The quest for justice continued, as in October 2010, the Boulder police took step of reopening the cold case once more. This new phase saw the initiation of fresh interviews alongside the re-evaluation of evidence by a committee that included both state and federal investigators. Police plan to employ the latest DNA technologies in their efforts. Despite these renewed inquiries, no new information was uncovered during the interviews. As reported on September 2016, Boulder Police Chief Greg Tester affirmed that the investigation into the tragic death of JonBenét Ramsey remains an active homicide case, reflecting an ongoing commitment to find resolution. In 2015, Becker expressed his dissent regarding the earlier exoneration of the Ramseys, labeling as quote-unquote absurd to exonerate based on a small fragment of unproven evidence, asserting that the unknown DNA found on JonBenét's clothing should remain the focal point of the investigation. He further stated, and I quote, "Until one can prove otherwise, The suspect is the donor of that unknown DNA, end quote. Similarly, in 2016, Gordon Coombs, a former investigator for the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, echoed these concerns, questioning the complete exoneration of the Ramseys due to inherent complexities of DNA transfer and the initial compromises regarding the true crime scene's security. Additionally, Steve E. Pitt, a forensic psychiatrist who was hired by the Boulder authorities, remarked that Lazy's public exoneration of the Ramseys was profoundly dismissive to Chief Beckner and a dedicated group of detectives who had invested years of effort into the investigation. The multifaceted dynamics of the case continued to unfold with various opinions and evolving perspectives. The search for justice for JonBenét Ramsey remains a poignant chapter in the annals of unsolved criminal cases. There are two main theories surrounding the tragic death of JonBenét Ramsey, a case that's fascinated and horrified the public scene since it first captured headlines. One of the most prominent theories is known as the, and I quote, family member theory. In the early days of the investigation, Boulder police largely focused their attention on JonBenét's parents, John and Patsy Ramsey. This focus aligns with the insights of Greg McCary, a retired profiler from the FBI, who has stated, and I quote, statistically, there's a 12-to-1 probability that the perpetrator of a child homicide is a family member or caregiver, end quote. The investigation notably revealed no signs of forced entry into the home, which only deepened suspicions about the Ramseys' potential involvement. Evidence suggested that the scene had been staged, particularly the presence of the ransom note, lending further credence to the familial connection theory. However, investigators expressed frustration with the Ramseys, who appeared to be less than fully cooperative in aiding the authorities in unraveling the circumstances surrounding the death of their daughter. According to reports from the Daily Camera, the Ramseys claimed that their hesitance was fueled by a legitimate fear that they would be unjustly blamed as prime suspects instead of the investigation being thorough regarding potential intruders. John Edward Douglas, born on June 18, 1945, is a notable American figure who served as a special agent and unit chief within the FBI. Renowned for his trailblazing role in one of the first criminal profilers, Douglas has contributed significantly to the field of criminal psychology through his numerous publications, including both true crime novels and his own biography. Concerning the case of JonBenét Ramsey, Douglas staunchly asserts that neither John nor Patsy Ramsey murdered their daughter. He remarked on the public discourse surrounding the case, noting, many crimes have tried in the court of public opinion long before they reach out to a court of law. But I know no other case in which the majority of the people have decided the solution based on the statistics. I know of no other case which the public substantially believes what has been reported in the tabloids. I know no other case in which the mainline media have let the tabloids take the lead and then reported on their reporting. And I know of no other case in which largely respectable television programs have so tried to outdo each other in sensationalism. End quote. Another theory that the moment of unrestrained anger, Patsy Ramsey may have struck JonBenét after an incident relating to bedwetting, leading to an unfortunate and tragic escalation where she subsequently strangled her daughter, believing that she was already deceased. However, this notion is contradicted by the absence of any known of uncontrolled rage from Patsy. Furthermore, JonBenét's older brother, Burke Ramsey, later recounted, and I quote, "We didn't get spanked, nothing of the sort, nothing close, nothing near laying a finger on us, letting alone killing your child," end quote. Some theorists suggest that the method of strangulation might have served as a diversion, a quote-unquote red herring, intending to obscure the aspect of a violent attack in the circumstances leading to JonBenét's death. Burke, who was only 9 years old at the time his younger sister died, was subjected to multiple interviews by investigators on at least 3 separate occasions. The first 2 interviews revealed no alarming issues regarding his behavior or disposition. A child psychologist reviewing these interactions noted that the Ramsey family appeared to maintain, and I quote, healthy, caring family relationships. In a 1998 statement, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner declared that the Burke Ramsey was not implicated in his sister's death. This sentiment was echoed by the Boulder County District Attorney's Office in May 1999, which insisted that Burke was not considered a suspect by investigators. In an effort to incentivize the investigation, the Ramseys placed a newspaper advertisement offering a reward of $100,000 on April 27, 1997, which came just a few days after they agreed to undergo formal separate interviews at the Boulder County Justice Center, a process they had previously avoided for several months following the discovery of her body. Further complicating the case, in 1999, Colorado Governor Bill Owens publicly advised the Ramseys couple to stop shielding themselves behind legal counsel and public relation firms. That same year, Colorado grand jury made a controversial decision to vote for indicting the parents, the indictment including 2 accounts each of child abuse, indicating that the Ramseys unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously permitted a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenét Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. Expert witnesses, including DNA specialist Barry Speck, a forensic expert Henry Lee, were called upon to testify in the case. However, on October 13, 1999, Alex Hunter, who was the district attorney at the time, declined to sign the indictment, citing insufficient evidence for prosecution. This maneuver left the public largely disillusioned, as many believed the grand jury investigation had yielded inconclusive results. The statute of limitations regarding the charges brought by the grand jury expired in 2002, further complicated any potential future prosecution. The details of the grand jury's decision to indict John and Betsy Ramsey remained undisclosed until October 25, 2013, when the unsealed documents were finally made public. The second theory surrounding the tragic case of JonBenét Ramsey is known as the intruder theory. Law enforcement officials and prosecutors pursued various leads related to potential intruders, largely inspired by the presence of an unidentified blueprint discovered in the basement room where JonBenét's lifeless body was tragically found. This particular clue spurred investigations into numerous persons of interest early on in the case. Among those considered were Bill McReynolds, a neighbor who took the role of Santa Claus, Chris Wolf, a local journalist whose then-girlfriend raised suspicions about him, Linda Hoffman-Pugh, the family's housekeeper, and a man named Michael Hilgoth, who subsequently died in apparent suicide shortly after JonBenét's death. In total, hundreds of DNA tests were conducted in an effort to match links to the DNA obtained during her autopsy. In a noteworthy defamation lawsuit in 2003 relating to the case titled Wolf vs. Ramsey, presiding judge Julie E. Carnes made a significant statement regarding the evidence. She noted there is virtually no evidence to support Wolf's theory that the Ramseys murdered their child, but there is an abundant evidence that supports the Ramseys' belief that an intruder entered the home at some point during the night of December 25, 1996 and killed their daughter. Detective Lou Smith, who investigated the case, carefully analysed the available evidence and arrived to the conclusion that the intruder indeed committed the crime. On the night JonBenét was murdered, authorities noted that 2 windows had been left slightly ajar to accommodate electrical cords to outdoor Christmas lights. Additionally, there were a broken basement window and 1 unlocked door. Smith positioned the theory that the assailant entered the Ramsey residence through the compromised basement window. However, this theory has faced criticism. For instance, an intact cobweb was present in the basement window, and the steel grate that covered the windows exhibited undisturbed cobwebs, as did the foliage surrounding it. However, cobwebs are found in the tracks of various other windows within the home, and there was a noticeable layer of dust and debris accumulated on some of the sills. Smith hypothesized that the intruder used a stun gun to incapacitate JonBenét and subsequently dragged her into the basement where she met a tragic end. A ransom note was discovered at the scene, further deepening the mystery. Supporting Smith's hypothesis was former FBI agent John E. Douglas, who had been enlisted by the Ramsey family for insights on the case. Smith, holding the belief that the Ramsey's parents were innocent, ultimately decided to resign from the investigation on September 20th, 1998, just 5 days after a grand jury was summoned to assess the case against the Ramseys. Despite the resignation, Smith continued to pursue leads and gather evidence related to the case until his death in 2008. In his book, Presumed Guilty, published in 1999 and revised in 2016, author Stephen Singular raised concerns about the investigation process, suggesting that JonBenét might have been attracted the unwarranted attention of child pornographers and paedophiles linked to the child pageant circuit. Singular criticized the focus on Ramsey's parents during the investigation, asserting that the narrow concentration hindered the exploration of alternative theories. He further speculated that the Ramseys were not culpable for their daughter's murder, except perhaps inadvertently by placing her in a dangerous environment that could expose her to predators. Singular's insights aid their understanding in why the grand jury chose not to recommend murder charges against the Ramsey parents, instead suggesting potential charges of child abuse and endangerment due to extreme risks associated with the circumstances surrounding their daughter's life. Investigators have also revealed that the Ramsey neighborhood experienced over 100 burglaries in the months preceding JonBenét's murder, and there were 38 registered sex offenders living in a 2-mile radius of their home. In 2001, former Boulder County Prosecutor Trip DeMuth and Boulder County Sheriff Detective Steve Ainsworth advocated for a more vigorous investigation into the possibility of intruder in connection with the case. Among those Smith identified as a suspect was Gary Howard Olivia, a registered sex offender who reportedly faced multiple charges related to child exploitation as of June 2016, according to the Boulder's Daily Camera. Notably, Olivia was publicly named as a suspect in the episode of 48 Hours Investigates that aired in October 2002. The documentary, The Killing of JonBenét, The Truth Uncovered, which aired on A&E on September 5, 2016, reached the conclusion that an unidentified male individual was responsible for JonBenét's death, based on the extensive forensic DNA analysis of the evidence obtained by the scene. DNA and forensic scientist experts Lawrence Kalimsky stated emphatically that an unidentified male committed this crime. Moreover, the district attorney's office focused on investigating pedophiles, indicating to former Denver prosecutor Graves Silverman that they were adhering to the intruder theory. During this time, the Ramseys fostered a relationship with DA Mary Lacey and her office, a development that drew criticism from various local authorities, including the city's mayor Leslie L. Dugan. Silverman expressed his concerns, remarking, "Once you have conceded the possibility of a murder, I don't see how any Ramsey could ever be successfully prosecuted." Gordon Coombs, who became an investigator under Lacey's leadership while testing JonBenét's clothing for trace DNA, remarked that Lacey strongly endorsed the intruder theory, often discussing it with her team. Although Coombs was not directly involved in the case, he was advised against voicing any dissent regarding the theory of fear of jeopardizing his position. He articulated a sense of unease regarding what he described as a concerted effort to influence the overall direction of the investigative agency. On August 15, 2006, John Mark Carr was apprehended in Bangkok, Thailand after he made a false confession regarding the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. At the time of his arrest, Carr was a 41-year-old schoolteacher who asserted that he had drugged, sexually assaulted and subsequently, albeit accidentally, killed a young girl. However, as reported by CNN, law enforcement officials indicated that they were unable to find any evidence that connected Carr to the crime scene, raising significant questions about the validity of his confession. During the course of his confession, Carr only shared information that was already widely known to the public, failing to provide any unique or compelling details about the case. Additionally, his assertion that JonBenét had been drugged further undermined his credibility, as the autopsy results revealed that no drugs were detected in her system. To add to the mounting evidence against him, it was confirmed that Carr's DNA did not match the DNA evidence collected by JonBenét's body, effectively disassociating him from the crime. In conclusion, the tragic case of JonBenét Ramsey remains one of the most puzzling and heartbreaking mysteries in recent memory. Despite decades of speculation, numerous theories, and countless investigations, the truth of what happened to JonBenét that night continues to elude us. Her case serves as a haunting reminder of the complexities of justice, the limitations of forensic science, and the intense public fascination with unsolved crimes. As we reflect on her life and the enduring mystery surrounding her death, we are left with the somber realization that some answers may never come, but the pursuit of truth and justice for JonBenét must persist.